Hello and welcome to Frank's School. If any of you decided you wanted to try Google Earth, that's fun to do that, to look around. And if you look for Loreda in Portugal, you just type the name in, Loreda, Portugal, and it zooms to it. It's amazing. The thing is, there's another one, I believe, further north. This is on the Mondega River. And I just say that so that you wouldn't be looking around trying to find these other places. And you probably didn't do that. Now I'm thinking about that trip. I suspect I will not go to that little town because I can do better. No field trip today. I'm sorry. I said that there would be. But there's snow on the ground. It's also very cold, but there's no wind. But with snow on the ground, I'm afraid up there in the mountain you couldn't see the features that I want to show you. So it may be a few days, and it could be better actually, because that won't be the only archaeological field trip that I take you on. I may put several together in a week or so. Okay, today there'll be two videos. The first one, I want to tell you what I'm still working on this Portuguese trip. After I visit Bom Jesus do Monte, that with the Baroque stairway, I want to go on probably the same day. I'm just not sure where I'm going to stay that night, but I want to see Minho. Minho is the northernmost part of Portugal, and probably the poorest, or else inland, maybe inland from Minho might be the poorest. And Portugal is one of the poorest countries in Europe. So I'm talking about going to the poorest part of the poorest country. And why would I do that? Well, to learn. And if you followed this course at all, you know that when the train went through there, I saw things that I wanted to see again. The polyculture, it's called. I'm not sure yet why Minho is so poor. I think it might be because nobody wanted to leave it, and the farms ended up being so small. I think typically they're only about 5 acres. Now, and eventually families got small again, but so many moved away, and I suspect the Brazilian peasants, if they were able to trace their roots back, I wouldn't be surprised if many of them came from Minho. I don't know. Now this polyculture, that's an old word. When I read about it, the books were 40, 50 years old, my references. So I say also known as diversified farming. There's a real modern or a fairly current term, can't think what it's called, permaculture. Permaculture, and these have to do with the goodness of it, the ecological morality, if you will, the goodness for the soil. Well, the polyculture of Minho, its history and why it was there, I'm not ready to say it was so noble as being good for the soil. It has a more complicated history, which I guess I won't tell you about it now, but there's a reason that those farms are very small. And there's a reason why they don't just grow grapes like they do in a lot of Portugal. This is not, the opposite of this would be monolithic culture or monoculture, where you have one crop, corn, the whole way across Nebraska, or wheat the whole way across whatever, Kansas. And I want to see that, and I want to because I want to learn. Well, one of the things that I'll be disappointed if I don't see, I already told you, is that at Braga there's a pedagogical farm devoted to teaching children how they farm in that area. They must be proud of this tradition of polyculture. This is quite new, and if things go well, I'll be making a documentary, a film documentary, on that subject right there. I hope that I can. And another thing that I mentioned, woofers, they're called woofers. I think I just mentioned this. worldwide opportunities on organic farms. There are some woofer hosts in that area. I know I mentioned this. And I will look to see where they are and see if it's reasonable to stop by and look on my way to Santiago de Compostela, which is in Spain, in Galicia. Well, why am I so fascinated with this polyculture of Minho? There's a couple reasons. One, the Brazilian peasants that I got to know when I was in the Peace Corps, between the ages of 22 and 25, I guess. I learned so much from those peasants in so many ways. They were poor. They were very poor. And when I came back to the United States, this would have been 1972 about, I really went into shock, I think. It was called culture shock. That often happened to returning Peace Corps volunteers because the world they came back into was shockingly different from where they had been living. And I had come to so admire a lot about those Brazilian peasants that it was, someone later looking at my life could maybe say that Frank never recovered from culture shock. They were poor, they were subsistence farmers, they would have loved to have been rich, they would have loved to have a big sugarcane plantation, I'm sure, but that was how they lived. And I want to revive my memories and revisit that. But also this land where I live, later, probably in a week or two, you'll hear much more about this land. But this land is not good land. We've called it a farm. My grandfather called it a ranch because he grazed cattle here. It is not good land. And I would like to farm it, but I can never farm it in any competitive way in the market, in the open market. Now, it could be a pedagogical farm, that it could be. But it was a village. It was a village that was here that's gone. And I'll tell you more about that now. As a matter of fact, almost nobody knows it was ever here, except for me and you if you're watching this video. But next fall, September, I want to start plowing. I haven't really plowed. I haven't made any serious effort to farm this land because I've been busy teaching school. And I knew that for 2 years I would be working hard on trying to get things caught up. But by September, I want to start to plow. And how I plow the land, I think I already know, but I want to see how they plowed it there. Because there, this farming goes back possibly 3,000 years. The Romans farmed that ground, and it's been continually farmed that long. There's a book called Farmers of 40 Centuries about Chinese farming. And you know, that's sort of one thing, but there in Europe, it's similar. And so some of those fields that I'll be looking at, they will have been plowed one way or another for 3,000 years. And they're curvy, and there's little stone walls. When I was on Google Earth looking down, last class I think I mentioned that I saw those same curvy fields. You see, when you're plowing and you don't have a really big, powerful tractor, you don't plow uphill and downhill. You try to plow level. And if the ground is all nice and flat and level, that's one thing. But if it's mountainous and hilly, you plow in curves. So I'll leave the subject now, but as I said, I'm hoping to make a documentary about it. Not just raw film footage, but a documentary about that after my trip. I have another video today that I want to present. And so please do come back.